Hey there, it's John from Living the Music. Today we're going to be talking about the Fountain of Lamneth, a sidelong epic by the band Rush on their third album, Caress of Steel. Welcome to the video. Feel free to add your comments. A lot of people love this song to death. I've done a short video singing the praises of the album as a whole, and a number of people have commented on how much they love the album and how much Fountain of Lamneth also means to them. As the years and months have gone by, it's come to be more of a favorite of mine every time I listen to it as well. So let's dive into our reflections and appreciation. As I say, it comes from Caress of Steel, their third album, 1975. This was not a big seller for them. Apparently, their first album sold okay. The second album, Fly By Night, did somewhat better. This was a step back. Many people at the record company were worried. As the story goes, they told their manager, "We need more of a hit. Can you write more like Bad Company? Give us some more pop-oriented, kind of catchy stuff." And the manager went back to Rush and they said, cool. And they delivered 2112, which on the face of it was not what the record company was looking for. But if you look underneath the surface of that album, yes, it does have a sidelong epic to start it, which is, sci-fi and, dystopian and dark and all of that. But it is a very focused musical statement too. And there are some catchy parts on there. I think it's it's not something you necessarily hear a lot on radio even at the time, but I do think it had its commercial appeal, and just that concept, making it sci-fi in the way that they did, I think did appeal to a certain audience that likes that kind of thing. And then the second side of that album had straight up, good rock tunes on it. Some heavier than others, but they were not connected to a concept, but they were all very good tunes. And again, some very catchy stuff on there, especially like with Passage to Bangkok and Something for Nothing, things like that. So as it turned out, 2112 was a huge statement for the band, big seller, and they had their sort of artistic freedom from that point forward from the record company with no interference. But going back to Caress of Steel, it's kind of like their underdog album in a way, looking back on their trajectory, and it's easy to be overlooked and underappreciated. And even the band tends to look back on it with some regret, I would say, and some criticism. They talk about they had a lot of time on the studio for them, whereas they only had maybe a week or 10 days on their previous couple albums. With this album, they had a few weeks to tinker around in the studio, and they felt they may have become a little bit indulgent in some of their arrangements. But also they were depressed a little bit because the tour for this wasn't selling as well, and eventually they got this sort of dark humor and started calling it the Down the Tubes tour and all that kind of thing. So it's one of those things. They've had so much success, so when they look back on something like Caress of Steel, which had a little bit of struggle to it, they don't necessarily see it in the brightest light. I think they do look at it. I've heard them use words as nostalgic, and they can look at it with some sympathy for their immaturity at the time, let's say, and the path that they were on, and this was a step along the way where they learned a lot. They might say they learned some things that they didn't want to repeat, but that's okay. it led to what came next, which was the more focused 2112. But I and many fans look at this album and we say it's a masterpiece in and of itself, and they actually have very little, if anything, to be ashamed of or even highly critical of. They say they were taking a lot of drugs at the time. Well, marijuana intake was high, but that certainly wasn't unusual at the time, and it may have sparked some creativity. So yeah, I'm an apologist for this album, and in particular, the Fountain of Lamneth, which Hugh Syme kindly did a drawing of for the back cover here. So yeah, this was Hugh Syme's first cover for the band, I believe, and he worked closely with Neil Peart to get it the way they wanted it. Apparently the coloring maybe didn't come out exactly as anticipated when it was finally produced, but anyway, the main ideas they planned came to fruition, and you got this gatefold here with these sort of calligraphy type lyrics, which I must say are difficult to read in my older age, but they're pretty. And you got some nice concert photos of the guys there. So getting into the Fountain of Lamneth, it takes up all of side B, side 2, and it has 6 parts to it. The thing is, like with any song, of course, you don't need me to, reproduce the song. I mean, you can listen to the song, obviously, but as fellow fans, and maybe if there's somebody new to Rush who's curious, you're along for the ride here. But I think what's really important is to talk about how it hits us and what it means to us, and how we interact with it, essentially. Because it's like whatever my experience is, that's really the essence of what I have to share. That I know it's just mine, but yeah, nobody can repeat my experience. And so that's what I'm really going to share with you. If I have some quote unquote insights about the song in general, or some abstract points, I'll make those. But really, I'm here to appreciate this from my perspective, and of course, hopefully, that inspires you to do the same for yourself. And yeah, I hope everybody keeps going back to the song and letting the song hit you the way that it does. Now, let's talk about the music first of all. This is it strikes me as a little bit of a quieter song, a gentle song. It does have some hard rocking passages. I would say it has a combination of very gentle, folky kind of sentiment and feel. Then also at times a very clamorous, heavy, pounding, even at times avant-garde feel. And then there's also sort of a pop section in there as well. Pop, poppy, hooky kind of thing. I think there was a section in here that No One at the Bridge that was used as a single for them, believe it or not. So I think it is a genius song in terms of the arrangement, the way it's put together, the flow of it. I love how it has these different soundscapes, and it's it's progressive in that sense. It keeps you guessing of what's going to come next. At the same time, it has a unity to it. There are some themes that come back more than once. And I think it's a very well. It's unique. It's a unique statement that Rush never did again. Before this, they had Bytor the Snow Dog from Fly By Night. That was, I want to say, 9 minutes or so. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But anyway, it wasn't quite a sidelong epic. But that was sort of their first stab at a really long song. And that was cool. But that had like a really long, moody section of not much happening. But it's still a great song. After this, they come with the 2112 sidelong epic, which has a lot of dynamics to it and a lot of punch and power and pop, and then some subtle sides as well. But fantastic soloing and very busy drumming and bass, and it's its own kind of masterpiece. Then they came with the Hemispheres side, side one of that album. And that's also quite unified, if a little bit on the repetitive side with some of the themes, musical themes. This one is maybe not quite so unified as any of that other stuff, but to me, it still works, and it has like let's say, an organic feel to it, an expansiveness to it that strikes me. If there's one criticism that I would say, from just, again, my own opinion, there are several times in the song when it comes to like a complete halt, where I find that a little bit, I don't know if the word is jarring or it's just kind of pulls me out of the flow a little bit. I wish they had, let's say, connective notes or chords that they could keep playing rather than just having that half second of silence. But really, that's my only quote-unquote criticism of the song. I think the performances are wonderful. You get a little bit of a drum solo in here by Neil. Of course, he does fantastic playing whenever he comes in. Geddy's vocal, I think, is wonderful. He's very expressive and very tuned in to what this person is going through, which we'll get to in a moment when we talk about the words. But I think he was, like I say, sensitive to Neil's purpose with this song, and I have a sense that this song meant something at the time to Neil that is more than just a throwaway rock song. So I guess you feel the authenticity of the vocal delivery, which is nice. I think the guitar solos are very tasteful. To me, they're not as showy and flashy as 2112, but that's okay. They are let's say, subtle to some degree here, but I find that works very well. So that's some of my thoughts and appreciation on the music of this thing. The 6 sections, just to name them, you got In the Valley to start it off, which goes into Didacts and Narpets, which is an anagram for addicts and parents. And that goes into No One at the Bridge, followed by Panacea, followed by Bacchus Plateau, and finally ending with The Fountain. I just keep holding this picture up here because I just think this is a very evocative picture by Hugh Syme, and of course, again, based on Neil's lyrics and some of their conversations together. I'll put it down for the moment. I think, let's start with the title. I think there's something evocative about the title, and I like that it's original. As far as I can tell, This comes from Neil's imagination. As we know from 2112, he borrowed some of the ideas from Ayn Rand, and with hemispheres, he is using some Greek mythology, which is all fine, as he still brings tons of creativity to that, of course. But here, not to say he's not influenced by other things, but I really also feel it's an original statement by him. And in totality, I think it's quite a mature exploration for somebody so young, in his early 20s at the time. I don't remember exactly what age he was when he wrote this, but this song is seemingly about the meaning of life, about what's important in life, about the process from birth to maturity to death, and even perhaps beyond that. So some very grand themes, some very deep themes, and Neil is up for it, and just that ambition to want to dive into these kind of ideas and sort of human condition, I think is very impressive, and I give him a lot of credit. And of course, he wrote a ton of great lyrics over the course of his career. I put this right up there with his best overall lyrics. I find them, again, deep. I would say certainly thoughtful. They certainly are provocative in that they make you think. They certainly make me think. And in a sense, they're also inspiring. So that's quite an achievement. There's some interesting lines in and of themselves. I don't know about rhymes per se, but just the composition of where he places the different lines and so forth, and the flow of it, I think works very well. Whether it would come off as just a poem, I don't know, but with the music, I think they've put it together quite well, and I think it flows quite well. Now, in terms of some of the, I guess, specific points that he seems to be after, or at least that I gather from it, let's talk about those. So I get this idea that he's saying that life has a flow to it, and at the same time, you got to be careful not to just kind of fall into a comfortable existence. You got to be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, to be courageous, to go for some spectacular results that are meaningful to you, that call to you. So I like all of that. I appreciate all of that. I resonate with that, and I enjoy that kind of reminder for myself. Even into my 60th year on Earth, I still feel I'm just kind of, I don't know if getting started, but I'm still searching. I'm still looking to get it right, to be on the right path for myself. So he goes into various sections where you get the sense of somebody who's just born and just kind of open and wide and just ready to receive what life has to teach him and give him, and all the perceptions of life that come in. And then you see how the powers that be around him or her, of course, start to try to mold them And while that could be sad, it's also inevitable, but you don't necessarily have to be trapped by that. And then there's an opportunity to fall in love, and the bliss of that, and the feeling of like, how could life get any better than this absolute bliss of feeling loved and giving love and being in love together. And then you could kind of settle into that and settle into your friends and your neighborhood, your community, and your hobbies, and that's all the spice of life, and it's wonderful and enjoy. But at the same time, as I referenced earlier, is there something more? Do we need something more? Maybe, maybe not. But for him, he has this symbol of the Fountain of Lamneth, which, for whatever reason, this piece of nature calls him to visit it. And apparently it ain't easy to get there. But even though it's extremely difficult, he is determined to find his way and to not give up until he gets there. And he goes through whatever tribulations he needs to go through to reach his calling. And of course, I have to imagine that fountain represents something deep for him, whether it's connection with nature or spirits, I don't know, or it's just kind of a certain magical beauty that he just couldn't live without not seeing and experiencing. So he does, and he gets there, and then there's the enjoyment of that and the satisfaction of reaching that plateau. At the same time, it's accompanied by what would you call it? A hesitation or an anxiety of, well, now what? Now what am I gonna do? What do I have to live for if I've already achieved my life's ambition? So just pause there for a moment, and as I think about everything I've just said, again, I think that's pretty heavy. It's pretty good for a rock song, and they do it in an enjoyable way. To me, I don't find it ponderous. I don't find it difficult to go through that journey vicariously. I find it fascinating and enjoyable. What a testament to Neil as a man and as a thinker and a writer, and the three guys as a whole, to get behind this. You just don't find this level of subtlety and depth in many rock tunes. It's special. It's special. And then it ends on an enigmatic note. And this is one part that I will read to you if you don't mind, where at the very end he sings, "I'm in motion. I am still. I am crying. I am still. I'm together. I'm apart. I'm forever at the start. Still, I am. So I love that. I love the ambiguity of that. I mean, what exactly are you supposed to take from that? Well, I think you're supposed to take from it to think for yourself and to be with it and reflect on it. And maybe today you take one thing from it, tomorrow you take something else, 10 years from now it hits you a different way. So it's not for me to try to summarize any point there, but I like how it's not didactic in the sense of like, well, here's the moral of this story. It's more, life is complicated. Life is not just a straight line, simple thing. I guess you could look at it that way, but if you take human consciousness and you start to ponder what that is and where it comes from and what it means and where it's going, there's a lot of room for thought there, and a lot of room for exploration of a very, to me, fascinating nature. Philosophical, I suppose, but I think it's powerful. So let's start wrapping this up here. I don't know how many people are gonna click on this thing. What are they? Are we Rush nerds who get into this kind of tune? I don't know. I don't care what you call me or what you call us. I think it's intelligent music. I think it's worthy music. And even though it's all those years ago, 1975, I'm just damn happy it ever happened. And to me, this is one of the best albums Rush ever made and one of the best songs they ever produced. Will they ever get around to playing it live? Hell no. I'll be seeing them on this tour in 2026, and it would absolutely blow my mind to pieces if they rolled out some Fountain of Lamneth. Like, I don't even know how I could roll with that, but I would be in absolute musical heaven. But that's okay. They did put it to record, whether they like it or not. Now, as they look back on it, they did, and I always have it to go back to, and so do you. If for some reason you never listened to the song, please do listen to it a few times. Let it wash over you. Let the fountain, spill all over you. And, at some point, get the lyrics out and read along, sing along eventually. I won't be surprised if this doesn't become one of your favorites at some point as well. So there you have it, my thoughts and appreciation on The Fountain of Lamneth by Rush from Caress of Steel. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it to this point, I think you liked it a little bit. Would you please note that by clicking that little thumbs up there? That would help us tell the world more people should watch this. And I would also love it if you would comment, and I do read all your comments. I'll respond to just about every one of them, and I would love your thoughts on this. Let's make this a back and forth on the awesomeness of this tune. And hey, if you think it sucks, well, we can take that too. But just chime in. Love to hear from you. And then, of course, if you enjoy this kind of analysis, please subscribe. I'd love to have you aboard this channel, Living the Music, and you can get notifications for all the videos that we have that are coming down the pike. Everyone, take care. Please have a great day. See you next time.